Let's get more on this from Ivan Eland, who's a senior fellow at the Independent Institute, which is a think tank based out of Oakland, California. He joins me now in the studio. Ivan, so Democratic Senator Tim Kaine says even if the president votes for this resolution, he does believe it'll send a strong message to the president and perhaps influence the president's future decision making. Do you agree with that?
Well, one never knows about President Trump because he's so aggressive in his policy, and also he's very erratic. But I think they're designing this, although Tim Kaine said it wasn't with Trump in mind. I think it is with Trump in mind, really, because both houses are not going to get a veto-proof majority, meaning that the president can veto and it won't take effect. There won't be any practical effect, but it will send a message to him to be a little more careful, because I think people were alarmed when he assassinated Soleimani from Iran.
Absolutely. The president believes, though, that voting against it would have been in the interest of national security and that approving it would send a message of weakness to Iran. Will it?
Well, even if it did, the U.S. Constitution says that Congress declares war. Doesn't really send a message of weakness to follow our constitutional system. We've drifted away from that since the Korean War. Presidents have just gone off and attacked other countries or taken military action without the proper approval. It doesn't necessarily have to be a declaration of war, but a congressional authorization is the minimum you needed. And hopefully, if it's a big war, you need to get a declaration, but that hasn't happened for a while. But we really need to restore those constitutional norms, and the president is not much on that, frankly, so the constitutional norms.
There's not a whole lot we see Congress agreeing on these days. And interesting to note that 3 Republicans co-sponsored this. What kind of a statement do you think that makes in the wake of Soleimani and when Americans reflect on the decision that was made to invade Iraq?
Well, I think that's hanging in the background as well, that you do have executives who kind of run with it. Obama also did that by attacking Libya. He flagrantly violated the War Powers Resolution, but of course other presidents have done that as well. So I think this is trying to restore this, the original, what the founders wanted. They didn't want any single person to be able to take the country to war, because that's what the King of England had done and many European monarchs. So they wanted it to be a collective decision by the representatives of the people. So you had more than one person thinking about all the implications. And so that's what's going on here. There's pushback. And I think there's all in the background here is the president's other things that he's done that have sort of flouted the Congress, not cooperating with the impeachment inquiry. He's done other things like take military funding and put it towards the border wall, which was illegal. He's done other things that have sort of flagrantly disregarded Congress, and I think Congress is pushing back in the national security area, not only for the war issue, but for other issues as well.
With the high stakes of the 2020 election, is there any reason to believe that President Trump might make a decision not to veto this measure?
I think he probably will veto it because he just wants the most power he can in foreign policy. But all other presidents have done that too. So I don't foresee him not vetoing it, because I don't think there's any real drawback for him doing it. People don't want to get involved in more wars, endless wars, as he says it. But that might inhibit his actual behavior. But I think he will veto the resolution because he doesn't want to give up that power. So you might see him, it may send some sort of a message, but he's sort of his policies are along those lines, at least rhetorically. But for some reason, Iran is different.
That is interesting. Iran seems to be the exception there. Ivan Eland, really appreciate the conversation and your expertise. Thanks for coming on.